Now we have a selection at number 11, and it is from UConn, James Bouknight. And I know how it's spelled, but it's Bouknight. Just pretend that you know. Bouknight. 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 UConn. And the reason I said it like that is that's what you say when he makes those shots. Because you're getting him to put the ball in the hoop. Not the biggest, not the most physical, but you're saying in a modern NBA where they're not allowing, this isn't the Derek Harper hand-checking NBA coach that you knew and loved. This is a you breathe on Steph Curry. He's going to the line for 3 shots, and this kid can put the ball in the basket. What do you think of this selection and fit with Bouknight going at 11?
Yeah, I think there's some conversations, and Matt can talk a little bit more about this. This could have been Moody here.
Could have been Corey Kispert as well.
Corey Kispert. But again, when we talk about how do we compare players and the fit, when you look at LaMelo Ball, who my buddy Gary Parrish talked about last year, was definitely, in his mind, was the best player in the draft. I've been watching LaMelo since he was in 7th grade. How does this fit with him, especially with the way he handles the ball? But you look at the ball handling ability, this kid's a scoring machine. He comes from a tough program playing for, Coach Hurley. You got to be able to play through some confrontations and some tough practices. And when you're a young player transitioning to the NBA, I think, a couple of other players could have gone here, but I don't have a problem with this pick, EK.
Interesting. Didn't play basketball until middle school. I'm going to go on a limb and say he's the only one who played in college. Maybe we have 4 who didn't pick up a basketball, one playing until middle school. Bouknight is a very specific kind of guy. He's somebody, when I talk to people, a lot of people love him, a lot of people don't like him. There's a lot of varied opinions on him. You seem to be in Camp Bouknight, on Team Bouknight. Tell me why.
Because he can create for himself, create for others. I think he dropped for 2 reasons. One, heard a little bit of noise about concerns over, he had a meniscus issue when he was in high school, some knee stuff. That's a little bizarre. And then I also think that his numbers, he's a very good shot creator. And he takes tough shots, he can make tough shots, but the numbers actually don't support this narrative that James Bouknight is this top 3 or top 4 shooter in the draft. That's not the case. Regardless, this franchise is quite familiar with high-profile stars out of the University of Connecticut. And when they took Kemba Walker, it worked out pretty decently, all things considered, when you consider what Kemba did as a member of the Hornets. And now, this to me, you team him up with LaMelo Ball, Charlotte becomes like a top 3 must-see regular season NBA team next season. Bouknight, him dropping, I'm just telling you, this kind of situation could look up and see he had no business falling past 6 or 7, let alone getting all the way down to 11. All
right, let's bring in one of our partners from 24/7 Sports. That's Travis Branham. Travis, Bouknight, when you look here at 11, that porridge too hot, too cold, or just right for you with him going at 11 to Charlotte?
I think this is an absolute steal for the Charlotte Hornets. I absolutely love what they're getting in Bouknight. He was actually at number 7 on my big board that I posted earlier this week. Just a dynamic 3-level scorer, and he projects to be a really good shooter. I know his numbers aren't there. He does have a bit of a tough shot selection, which plays a little bit into those numbers. And this is a kid that suffered an injury during his high school season. And during his senior season after that injury, he made a big jump in his development and really impressed the rest of the way out, heading into UConn, obviously, playing 2 years there. This is a kid, when you talk to the people around him, they just rave about his work ethic and his competitiveness and his drive off the court to just continually get better. He's never going to be satisfied. He's always going to continue to find ways to get better. And when you're a guy who just loves to get buckets, you're going to continue finding ways to get buckets.
All right, I see that you like him. Again, this is a player that a lot of people like and are like, he's a modern NBA guy where, you don't need to be the most physical guy. If you can create shots and you can put the ball in the hoop, there's a spot for you, and you can be a very impactful NBA player. What's going to be the grade for James Bouknight? Let's send it over to Keem.
All right, James Bouknight, again, let's give props to Kenny White. Continuing to put knowledge in our mind, money in our pocket. James Bouknight over 6.5 on his draft position as he goes 11th overall to the Charlotte Hornets as we welcome back in Gary Parrish. And Gary, this is something that you guys talked a lot about on the Iron College Basketball podcast. His pre-draft workouts were awesome, and it certainly impressed Charlotte here as they perhaps get a steal at 11th overall.
I think they did. I didn't think, as of this morning, there was any realistic scenario where James Bouknight was going to be available outside of the top 10. But here we are, and Charlotte was smart to snatch him up. I mean, this is a guy who can play with the ball, moves incredibly well without the ball. He's a top shelf athlete, and really the biggest concern about him as an NBA prospect was that, he didn't shoot good percentages from three at UConn, but by all accounts, he shot the cover off the ball at the Combine, Pro Day, and in various workouts. And now you're Charlotte, and you got LaMelo Ball and James Bouknight, as your backcourt of the future. That's a really, really nice combination. If I'm a Hornets fan, I'm thrilled right now.
I like it. James Bouknight headed to the Charlotte Hornets. When you talk about James Bouknight, and maybe you touched on it a bit, the concern there, the three-point shooting for him ultimately, Gary?
Well, that's the concern based on if you watched him play at UConn. The percentages were not good. There's no getting around that. And, if you really break down the film, there was some, release a shot here, then release a shot there, rise high on some jumpers, not as high on others. You've got to get a little more consistent with that. I'm sure Avery would agree. But, again, in the workouts, he shot it well, according to everybody I talked to. And if you're not concerned about James Bouknight being a subpar three-point shooter, like if you think that's not a problem going forward, you're really getting something special in a guy who's got a chance to be a real shot creator and shot maker in the NBA. And when he's got LaMelo Ball setting him up, either in the half court or transition, real quickly, in just a matter of 2 drafts, the Charlotte Hornets have put together, I think, one of the neat, really cool young backcourts in the NBA.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.